can do it
All right.
all.
We are recording now. Let me share my screen. And hopefully, cross my fingers, all will work with the world. Here we go.
Good morning, everybody. So thankful for you bearing with us through the technical snafus of the day that are just kind of de rigueur these days. We are speaking today about the issues that are most pressing to businesses right now, whether it be access to capital or financial planning. It has been a very exhausting 2 years. I think no one can deny that. It's not really a breakthrough statement for me to say that, but I think what we found in the first year was that everyone was charitable, everyone was giving of their pennies and dollars. And I think that started to shrink up when we went into a second year, when people started to really go, oh, do I have the money to give? Will the money be free flowing? So I think we're up against a new hurdle and a new challenge going into the second COVID winter. All that to say, I think there are ways around it. I think there are ways to help. And we've invited some amazing people to have a discussion with us this morning on that. We have Nikki Macdonald, who's a financial advisor at Northwestern Mutual. We have Marty Weitzel, who is the director of business lending at the Arlington Community Federal Credit Union. I don't know if we have David yet. Do we have David? No? Okay. So right now we're going with Nikki and Marty because, you go to the dance with the people you go with, right? And I would love to introduce Paula, but I don't think we have Paula. Paula Baki is our new business. No, we do not. I'm checking through the windows. Business engagement specialist. David's having technical difficulties as well. So it's just that kind of rainy morning. That's all right. We're going to take that and run with it. So I would love Nikki and Marty for you to take the ball from here and just tell us something we don't know, please.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that intro. I'm really happy to be here. Nikki, I know you are as well. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I am going to kind of double up. With David having technical difficulties, I'm going to intro us to the SBA in a world with COVID, but in a world that is not only COVID. The SBA, a lot of people have been hearing for the past year and a half, 2 years, PPP, EIDL, these acronyms have been associating the Small Business Administration directly and only with these relief programs and efforts. And I'm going to tell, hopefully, a little bit more about what it is that the SBA is chartered to do, their role in access to capital for small business, and how that fits in with local community lenders, and basically just the blueprint for, okay, so we have a large federal government organization with gigantic bags of money appropriated, and they want to get it into small businesses' hands. How? Well, that's that's where I'm going to go with this. And I am going to share my screen. Actually, if we could stop sharing this screen, I'll share. Thank you. Perfect. So, excellent. So I just want to talk about the SBA very briefly, what it is. The SBA is a federal government organization that's chartered to help with the advisory and finance for small businesses. They provide counseling and training, contracting opportunities, capital access, and disaster recovery is basically their bread and butter. I'm sure that as you may assume, that last one has been extremely important and has been emphasized over the past couple of years. That's what a lot of people think of when they hear SBA. That's what they associate the SBA with, and why wouldn't they? I mean, the PPP program was a gigantic part of our country's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it was certainly a gigantic part of my life as a small business financing person. So I'd like to touch most though on capital access. The SBA provides ways through which capital can be more easily accessed by our small business and our small business owners. The SBA doesn't provide that capital. The SBA doesn't make loans themselves. The SBA partners with lenders like your banks and credit unions to make life easier. And I'll get into that in just a second. You'll see on the screen that the SBA is broken up into 10 different regions. We are in region number 3. Here is our office more specifically, and the reason why I'm adding in some specificity to the understanding of who the SBA is and how they work in a localized nature is because I want to underscore and emphasize the partnership between local lenders and your local SBA office. Again, the SBA is a federal organization, but they work on a local level with local lenders, like here, us at ACFCU and others. Our local office is in DC, you guessed it, but local lenders around here, we make relationships with our SBA office and our SBA officers, and we try to deepen those relationships and our understanding of both of our specific and unique functionalities so that we can better partner to help the end user of capital, the folks who need access to capital, you, the small business owner, locally. So let's talk about SBA loans very briefly. Like I said before, there's 3 parties involved in an SBA loan. There's the SBA itself, there's your lender, and then there's you. The SBA doesn't lend money, the lender lends money. The SBA makes it easier for your lender to lend money. How do they do that? They add a government guarantee to the small business loan, and that quite frankly makes the loan a lot less risky for a lender who has to deal with loan policies, internal audit standards, and regulatory standards. We need to make sure that we are making loans that we reasonably expect to be repaid. And in an environment where over the past year to 2 years now, so many small businesses have been struggling, it's difficult to find access to traditional capital financing opportunities because we're forced to look retrospectively to an extent and look at the past performance over the past couple of years of your small business. We understand the circumstance, we understand the environment. How do we get past that, and how do we stay compliant as a lender while doing what we understand needs to be done, which is providing access to capital to small businesses who are recovering and building back from these circumstances. We use the SBA. The SBA has programs that partially or fully guarantees small business loans. The PPP program that most people are most familiar with was 100% guaranteed. That's the only SBA program that I've ever seen with a 100% guarantee, but we'll get into that in just a second. Again, the benefits to a small business loan from the SBA, the number one benefit is access, but also small SBA loans, you can use that guarantee to mitigate other risk factors from a lender perspective, and you can then justify stretching a loan out to longer terms, which will squeeze your payment amount down. You'll have less equity down necessary if you're looking at a purchase transaction, if you're buying real estate, if you're buying out a partner, if you're doing something that requires a purchase. Now, we touched on a couple of these. There's a full bevy of situations where an SBA guarantee can be used to make life easier for a lender to lend. The one that I'm going to touch on most today is just working capital lines of credit. Small business owners, from my experience, they know that they need capital, and it's it's almost an unfair question to ask a small business owner in November of 2021. Hey, we're hopefully coming out of COVID or going into a second winter of it. Why does your small business need access to capital? All the reasons. We need access to capital for all the reasons. So working capital financing is kind of a catch-all term, and it's a catch-all program. And it's something that I think could be very beneficial for a lot of small business owners out there in our community. And it's something that the SBA is putting forth more and more these days. So let's talk about eligibility for a second. The one thing everybody needs to take away from this in terms of SBA loan eligibility is the credit elsewhere criteria requirement. So basically, the SBA doesn't want to slap a guarantee on a loan unless they need to. Define need. That's the credit elsewhere criteria. If a small business has been denied financing conventionally, then an SBA guarantee should be looked at as a way to get over that hurdle, to get over that hump. If you qualify without an SBA guarantee, then we don't need to use an SBA guarantee. The reason, and then a lot of people would ask the question, well, why wouldn't I just get an SBA guarantee even if I don't need one? Wouldn't that make life easier for lenders? Yeah, it would. But in normal circumstances, it would also make life more expensive for you, the borrower, because the SBA charges guarantee fees. We'll get into that in just a second. Spoiler alert, they're waiving them for a period of time to try and help everybody out. The SBA has size standards. I'd be shocked if anyone on this call does not qualify, just blanket qualifications for SBA financing. I think everybody here qualifies as a small business. And I think, like I said before, the eligible proceeds, of SBA loans it's a wide array. There are a couple things that you're not allowed to do with SBA money, but I don't think what we're here to talk about today. I think what we're here to talk about today is accessing working capital funds to help small business coming out of COVID, build back better, and continue to grow. Now, let's talk about two programs quickly and specifically, the SBA 7A program and the SBA Express program. When all the money for PPP was approved by the CARES Act and the Treasury printed it, the Treasury appropriated that money. They didn't give that money, but they appropriated the use of that money into the SBA 7A program. So that's the program through which PPP flowed. And as you can imagine, having $700 or $800 billion flow through a program, you get pretty good at the back office infrastructure of facilitating stuff like that. So the 7A program and its child, or whatever you want to call it, the SBA Express program, are better funded than ever before. They are better staffed than ever before, which is crazy to say in times when we as a country are experiencing serious staffing problems over a lot of industries. The SBA 7A program is more ready than it ever has been to provide those guarantees and help facilitate capital lending to small businesses. The 7A program is for larger loans. The Express program, I think, is something that a lot of people on this call need to be looking into. It is for financing up to $350,000. That can be in a term loan or a line of credit. You ask the question, which one of those two do I need? The answer is, well, what's your goal and what do you want to use the money for? And that's something that I really enjoy helping work through and planning and talking to folks about. I'd be happy to talk to anybody on this call one-on-one afterwards about planning and structure and things like that. But the basic gist of things is the SBA Express program is well-funded. It's for loans up to $350,000. The SBA will guarantee 50% of it, which makes it easier for lenders to lend. And the application and approval processes for this specific program have been streamlined. And in fact, when usually the SBA charges a fee for the guarantee equal to somewhere between 1 and 2.5% of the loan amount. So for example, if you get a $350,000 loan and you charge a 2% fee up front, the SBA does, that's $7,000 fee. That's a heck of a fee. Those fees are waived through the end of the calendar year. And I'm no fortune teller, but I really think that waiver is going to be extended into 2022. So the basic gist here is the SBA is here. The SBA is here to help. The SBA is well funded. The SBA has partnerships with local lenders, of which we are one. And we, ACFCU, and other local lenders are trying to work with the SBA to facilitate and streamline funding those who need it in our small business communities. So with that, that is me. So, ooh, I didn't see the dog there. That's really cute.
He jumped up. He was really interested in SBA loan.
We can talk offline if we want to look at some sort of PPP stands for perfect pub protection as well. So we'll figure something out. But thank you for letting me go on there for, I'm sure, a little bit too long.
No,
that's
Marty.
Yeah.
That was perfect because we don't have David, so thank you for kind of taking some of his time. Nikki, I'd like to welcome you back to the discussion. Thank you, Marty. Nikki, tell us what you know.
Okay, so I think hopefully this will be a good complement to Marty's, and pardon me, I'm just trying to do this screen share.
And while you're doing that, Nikki, I do notice a few questions popping up in the chat. If Marty, you want to speak to them in the chat, I would appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Here we go.
And Stephen, we will have time for Q&A after Nikki goes, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, and I think just as a quick additional note from all the great content that Marty just shared, I know when I was speaking with David, who is part of the SBA, and so we were kind of trying to be a little trifecta here of advisory. He had mentioned a few other programs that I can put in the chat, or I'm sure on their website, about kind of not only the education piece, but some of the more hands-on contact options that they do have. Things within their SCORE, one-on-one business mentoring, and then also some of the services for veterans, women, micro businesses. So I think the long and short is there's a lot of resources available that I think a lot of businesses might not know are available. And kind of with that, I would love to talk a little more about some of the more of the planning side. I think accessing capital is obviously a huge piece to any business, but there's also some other areas of financial planning that are either overlooked or kind of pushed down on the priority list because there's often a lot of other fire drills going on for folks, and also just kind of a lack of education. And so my background is working with individuals, families, and businesses on financial planning, and really the intersection. As small business owners, we know your business is your personal life, and your personal life is your business. And so, we don't want to separate them. We actually just want to make sure that they're talking to each other and that you have a plan on both sides. So let me move forward here. I think when thinking about planning strategies, I think one of the biggest areas is like, what is the checklist? What do I need to be doing? And really, when I break those down, I'm thinking about identifying and prioritizing goals and concerns. A lot of this, I think, happens when someone's thinking of a business idea or you're still in the planning stages, but this is really important to continue even as you grow and scale, and as things are good, bad, ugly. Identifying those goals and really understanding where you're trying to go is hugely important. Oftentimes we think about 4 different asset classes for your business, and we're going to go in, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but it's not just your capital, it's not just your physical store. There's a couple other pieces to think about there. Key areas of your business to protect. So we're thinking a lot about risk mitigation when we're thinking about planning. And relevant to that is, what stage are you at in your business? There's different things you need to think about when you're starting out versus you're more established versus you might actually be trying to exit the business. And then obviously I'm a little biased, but I think there's a great role for business advisors regardless of what stage someone is at in their business, and they can provide different services, different areas of expertise, complementary to the other advisors that you have, and someone like Marty, or a CPA, or somebody else that you go to for advice. So I'm going to keep it pretty high level here today, but obviously, would welcome the opportunity to chat with anybody one-on-one, as it makes sense. So when we are talking about the different asset classes, we think about our balance sheet, assets, liabilities, and there's really 4 different types for any business, and we want to protect all of them. The first is the physical assets, and I think that's something most people, very first and foremost they think of. It might be your building, your actual store, machinery, cars and trucks, and that's the physical side. Then we have your employees, and really that's your human capital. So this is sometimes easy for us to overlook, maybe not in the current market right now. Obviously it's really hard to find good people, but this really makes it even more important right now. Is our employees are extremely important to the success of the business, and whether you're looking to expand or just keep the talent that you do have, people are obviously a big part of that and should be considered an asset. The business itself, so this might be the softer side of things: the goodwill, the reputation, your presence in the community, the client relationships you've earned as a business. Your business has a value, and through some of the work that we've done with other companies like Arlington Strategy, or other companies that do branding and marketing and good presence in the community. Obviously the Columbia Pike Partnership is a huge part of this, but I think that in itself is really, really important as well. And then finally, the business, you, the business owner, are the key person that really holds it all together. And so let's not forget to protect you and the capital that you bring as the owner. I think this visual, I'm a visual learner, so I hope this is helpful in kind of looking at the different areas of the business and how we can sort of think about where different pieces fall. And again, this is, I think, a simplified version is like the Venn diagram of like personal, business, and like where does that overlap. But kind of taking that to maybe the 2.0 version is really looking at what parts of planning do we need to look at, and the business owner being right in the middle there. And then, how do you think about your advisory team? Obviously, I mentioned, Marty, a CPA, you might also have a banker, you might also have a third-party administrator, you might have a benefits provider. All these people are really important to your organization, and they really need to be a part of each part of this pie. So the risk management is steps that we take to protect the business from unforeseen events. I don't like talking about this as, just like nobody else does either. But what happens if somebody gets sick? What happens if I'm not here tomorrow? Like, what really at the end of the day, we want to think about the worst case scenarios so we can prepare for it, tick the box, and move on. The employee benefits are the various plans and incentives that you want to recruit and keep the talent and help stay competitive. The third area, kind of already mentioned, is exit planning. So at some point, you'll no longer be running the business. You might be retiring, transferring to children or, family, selling the business so you can focus on other opportunities. You need a strategy to convert the business into an asset so that you can move on and get what you need out of, retirement or your next venture. And then finally is personal planning. You might not think of this as part of your business, but as a business owner, your personal planning is really important too. And at the end of the day, integration for all of this is really the linchpin. You can manage and plan your business. How you manage and plan that business is going to impact your financial situation and the financial situations of others. When I'm working with business owners, I always recommend this integrated approach because it's the only way to make sure that you're protected and you're growing in all aspects. So no one in this room has exactly the same situation or business needs or business models. Everything is unique, and personal finances are unique. And that's really where, having the right team in place around you helps you, get to those goals that you have specifically. And I can share these slides after. So, these are just some of the areas that we want to think about when we're talking through the different, options. Some are more, products, and some are more strategies or plans in place. And so, whether, again, working with the different advisors on their specific, lane, I think is super important. And then finally, just again, going back to that point about the stages of business development, obviously, really at any of these different stage, startup, growth, maturity, transfer, you'll be dealing with all four components of risk management, employee benefits, succession planning, and personal planning. But your needs for each of those changes as you navigate through the different stages. And so that's where, having an advisor, Marty, whether you're starting out or whether you're in maturity stage, COVID happens, and what do we need? We might need access to capital. We might need to change around the benefit situation. And so, all of these things just allow you to be a little bit more flexible and a little more nimble and kind of, dealing with these punches that seem to have kind of keep on coming. And then finally, I'll leave this as sort of a takeaway, but just different objectives and priorities that we should think about as business owners, and not that we have to do everything today. It's really more about prioritizing and talking with somebody to really understand where you can make the most impact. And as always, it's progress, not perfection. So on all these things, I think it's really important to think about, how can we move the ball forward one step at a time. So really appreciate the chance to speak with you all today. And I think I see, let me stop sharing and figure out how to get back to the chat, and maybe we can take some of the questions.
Yeah, thank you both for presenting. I think Marty's been hard at work in the chat answering people's questions. I see you're typing. So if anyone has any additional questions, this is a great time to bring them forward or put them in the chat. As people are doing that, I do want to point out that Paula Baki is here. Paula is our business engagement specialist who has joined us, who's having technical difficulties. I just want to introduce you all to Paula. Paula, welcome. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Finally, I don't know what was happening with my Zoom, but finally got in.
Can you speak to just your experience as a small business owner and what brings you to this position and how you see your kind of fit in this organization?
Yes, absolutely. I think that first of all, I'm almost a month here with the Columbia Pike Partnership, and totally enjoying my work. I definitely feel that this position in a way has been made for my background, because I have had that the experience of working in corporate and working with executives and understand, the county perspective and business owners, investors, and property owners. But I've also had the experience of working, being a small business owner as well. So I totally, I understand the pain. I understand the wishes and the wants, and the multiple different things that a business owner needs to navigate. So I definitely appreciate all of our business owners on the Pike, and in a way, my heart goes out for them. So I really feel that, I'm extremely well positioned and to help them. In addition to my language skills and my background as an immigrant, I've moved to the US 30 years ago. I had to navigate all of those things that, the majority of our business owners on the Pike have had to do. I used to live on the Pike when I went to college at GW. So, it in a way, it's a 360, bringing me back home, but in a position in which I can make a difference and I can help. And I have a background of finance and strategic management and business development. So it's almost like this position has been, especially carved for me. And I really appreciate being given the opportunity by Kim and the team. And I'm very passionate about helping in any way I can. So thank you, Stephen, for the introduction. And I apologize for not being able to make it here earlier. Somehow Zoom was totally not cooperating this morning.
I feel like whenever it rains, the internet doesn't like it. I don't know. Anytime there's any kind of rain, there's always technical issues. I guess that all of our cords are made of paper and cardboard or something. But Paula, thank you. And I agree. I feel like this position was made for you, and that every bit of your experience is needed and valued and welcomed. Just a side tidbit, in a meeting with Arlington Economic Development earlier this week, all three members were singing Paula's praises, because Paula has been really getting the word out about Grant 2.0 when that was still applicable. And she got a record number of Columbia Pike businesses engaged in application of Grant 2.0, and that's because of her persistence, and her also just empathy side, being a small business owner, knowing the pain points and everything. So 3 cheers for Paula. Everyone's jealous that you're not with them, so we're glad to have you.
Thank you. Yes.
I see that the chat is very engaged, and there's lots of yes, Mike, agreed, and her language abilities. I see the chat's very engaged, and I see that our speakers are typing heavily. Kim, is there anything else you would like us to chat about? I've opened up the floor if anyone has anything else, but I do feel like the chat is serving that process right now.
I am wondering if Marty does want to just summarize some of what he's put in the chat, just so everyone is following along, because I know not everyone follows the chat.
And because this is being recorded.
Oh, that too. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah.
That's another perk too.
Absolutely. Well, I have been going back and forth with a couple of you wonderful folks in the chat, specifically about SBA 504 loans. SBA 504 loans are used by real estate. A couple of the benefits of the 504 program is that you don't need to put as much down. You only need to put 10% down on the purchase, and that's 10% of the project cost, which is something that we got to be specific about. Project cost is the purchase price plus all your fees, plus all your closing costs, etc. That's what you got to put down 10% of, and then in addition to that, the rates the rates on the 504 program are low and competitive, but we need to get started early. If you're interested in buying a real estate asset through an SBA program, we got to get started early. It puts us at a disadvantage if we're competing for a piece of real estate against folks who can pay cash or can basically close quicker. So the general takeaway for SBA 504 financing is makes it easier, not super easy, but it makes it easier for you to buy real estate to operate your business out of. It's something that we can absolutely look into. It's something I'm familiar with doing in the past, and it's something that we need to get started early on. There was also some discussion around underwriting requirements. How do I qualify? How do I make my company easier to qualify? Well, the SBA has minimum underwriting standards for their for everything. The 504 program is just for that real estate purchase, so we'll leave that for just a second. The minimum underwriting standards for 7A loans and SBA express lines of credit, which is really your working capital financing. They look for a business that has been operating for at least 2 or 3 years. These are not hard requirements. These are all things where if you pass all these hurdles, it's going to look pretty good. They look for, has your business been in business for 3+ years? They look at your business's cash flow on a retrospective and prospective basis. So basically they will say, okay, if we hypothetically were to put a guarantee behind and help you lend a $100,000 line of credit at 5% interest, interest only, your let's say 6% interest only, because the numbers are going to be round. Your annual debt payment on that would be $6,000 because your rate is 6% and it's a $100,000 line of credit and it's interest only. So if you use all of it, you're paying $6,000 a year. That equals $500 a month, and you need to cover that 1.15 times. So assuming you have no other debt, if you do, that just gets added into the denominator of this calculation. If your debt to cover is $500, then your net income for the month needs to be $575 because that is equal to 1.15 times your debt. Again, we'll look back at your financials from 2020 and 2019 and so far in 2021. They'll plug it in, and if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't work out, which doesn't work out for most people these days, because most people took losses or meager gains over the past year and a half, they'll look prospectively and they'll ask you for specific projections. Very, very important. The SBA loves projections, but they only love it if it's written in a format and language that is congruent with the SBA's format and language. So they will ask you, it's like they'll ask you for a baked good and you come back with a muffin and they said, no, we meant a cookie. Well, you only asked me for a baked good. We got you a baked good. How are we supposed to know you meant a cookie? We know that they mean cookie. So, part of the difficulty with the SBA I have found is not with the underwriting criteria hurdles, it's with getting them the information that they need in the way that they need it. It's communication, right? So those are some of the things that I was covering in the chat, and yeah, that's the main. If you take away really anything from this part, it's the SBA wants to lend you money, but they are unmoving when it comes to the format in which they want to receive paperwork.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's actually very helpful just to hear spoken aloud.
Okay.
Nikki, do you have any final wrap up statement you want to leave us with?
Oh, should have prepared my grand finale.
Come on, Perry Mason.
No, I think just really taking, for any business, I'm a business owner myself. I think like the planning aspects are, in addition to getting the capital, is obviously you have to think about, okay, well, how am I actually going to deploy this, and what am I actually using it for, is obviously a big part of that conversation. But then keeping some eyes on the longer term. I know that's been really hard for businesses in this really tumultuous last 18 to 24 months. But how do we want to get on the other side of this? And obviously the capital is going to bring us through some of the worst of the storm. But then ultimately, what are those growth goals, and what are the ways we can do that to protect against, I don't know, I always like it when somebody told me once, is sort of like, we're gonna, and maybe Diana and Vivek, you'll appreciate this, the sort of, you're gonna get punches, but we don't want any of them to be the knockout. Like, we want to make sure we have these plans, and whether it's insurance, whether it's benefits for our employees, whether it's executive compensation plans, or continued a line of credit that will allow us, oh shoot, something happened, we need to go into this, that we have options, and we're never found totally high and dry. And so happy to talk through any of those specific scenarios or specific issues, but I do want to make it clear that speaking with Marty and I is always free. I mean, there's no cost to having a conversation, so please, like, even if you think it's maybe a silly question or something that we might not be able to help with, I think the idea is, like, please ask, because more often than not, at least we can find you the answer or the right person to talk to if we don't know.
Nikki, to add on a little bit to what you were saying, I mean, access to capital is important. That's what I do. I try and get the money in the hands of small business owners so that you can deploy it and you can grow your business long term. So you grow your business. How do you sustain it? How do you keep your business safe? How do you keep your personal finances safe? How do you continue to grow in the long term? How do you compound that growth and those gains into your long-term macro plan, both for your business and for you personally? I mean, that's where Nikki comes in 100%. There's a lot to be learned and a lot to be understood. I mean, I talk to small business owners all the time, and it's always good to reframe the conversation. I always ask, what's your biggest expense? And very often they say payroll. I say, maybe. I think your biggest expense is taxes. I think your biggest expense is paying Uncle Sam. And if you can strategically find ways to legally mitigate that expense, that's just the same as making 10% more sales. And if after, hopefully the way this works is I help with access to capital. You use that capital to grow your business. Your business grows, you have retained earnings in your business, and you get to reinvest your gains into your business or into something else. What do you invest that in? A lot of people for a lot of years have used the term cash is king. I don't really think it is anymore. I think cash is trash as an investment. I think the way that the world is going these days. So how do you position yourself, and how do you position your personal and business asset holdings and investment portfolio in such a way that facilitates continued compound growth? Well, Nikki.
Thank you, Marty. Much appreciated, both of you. Diana, P.S., love the coffee mug. Yes, it's our new branded coffee mug. Kim, would you like to say anything to round out the discussion? I will say before you do, Kim, anybody feel free to unmute, ask anything out loud. I know you've been very active in the chat, and I appreciate that. But if anyone has anything else they would like to say, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I mean, and
This
Stephen,
is
we
Mike
just,
Garcia.
oh my God.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, so thanks everybody. What a great discussion. Just a quick question to Marty and Nikki. So let's just say I was interested in purchasing a condo or a building on the Pike using the SBA program, what are we looking at as a tail to closing? Like 6 months, 9 months, 12 months on the average?
3. I think 3. It really, I mean, the clock honestly starts when you identify the property, and you don't need to go under contract, but you need an accepted letter of intent between you and the seller. The SBA basically won't start until you have loosely agreed upon a number. That's what we need to start, and then 60 to 90 days from there is a decent projected timeline for closing, I think.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kim would like us to do some kind of a round robin here for Victoria, Antoine, Daniel, anybody else. You just want to kind of pop in, say, hey, what do you say there? Let's start with you, Daniel. I just spoke to you like 2 weeks ago. I'm so glad to see you joined us. Do you want to just pop in, say, hey, what your business is or whatever? And Daniel, are you still there? All right, anybody else? Antoine or Victoria or Cindy, anyone want to just pop in, say hi, who they're with, what they're
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, this is Antoine Wood. Sorry, I'm at a client's house doing a consult right now, so I was kind of hiding my face. I'm a realtor licensed in DC and Virginia. I handle primarily residential real estate. I have a couple colleagues who I've begun the process of acquiring some residential real estate here in the Virginia area. It's primarily in Fairfax. So I'm not sure who had the question. If you'd like to reach out, maybe talk about how that process might work, I'm happy to be a resource. I'm here primarily because my wife and I have decided that, you know, this Columbia Pike area is a place that we want to plant some roots. We have a son who's graduating, but we're going to start fresh and have a baby or two here once he graduates. And this is where we want to be home. So being that we're both business owners working out of this area at home, I have an office down in DC. We want to contribute in any way we can to the community. So that's why I'm here.
Welcome, Antoine. We're glad to have you here. Thank you. Victoria, I see you've popped on there. Do you want to say hey? I can't hear you, Victoria, even though you've unmuted, which is weird. Unfortunately, I don't think your audio is working. So sorry. Just give us a quick shout out in the chat, maybe. Hi, I wish I could hear your voice. I don't know if we have Daniel back or not, but I'm thinking not. All right, Kim, do you want to, Cindy, there you are. Hey, Cindy, do you want to say a quick hey, who you are?
Sure. My name is Cindy Johannesson. I own a Schoolie Mitchell franchise. I'm a cost optimization specialist. Go into any organization and look at their operational expenses. We don't charge anything for doing all of the background work to negotiate and find the savings. We only make money if we're able to find substantial savings for the company, and then we just share the savings 50-50 for a couple of years, for 3 years. And so, yeah, on average, we're able to save about 30%, which ends up being a considerable amount of money for many organizations. So, yeah, thank you so much for this presentation. It was wonderful today, and I'm just really grateful for your time and your expertise. So, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. And please put your contact email into the chat in case anyone wants to contact you regarding your services, because that sounds like a really valid and interesting thing. Victoria, thank you for putting yourself in the chat there. Wish we could hear you. Kim, I'm going to put it back to you one last time as we have 3 minutes remaining.
I love it. Thank you so much, Stephen, and thank you all for attending. My apologies that my camera's not working. I want to show my mug, but I can't right now. So Diana, hold up your mug for me, please. I do want to thank Diana because this business roundtable definitely was one of her ideas, and she is really a driving force with our board of directors. I also want to thank Nikki Macdonald, who's on our Community Advisory Council and also on our Finance Committee, and also a driving force behind this roundtable this morning. And Marty, thank you so much for joining us and for pinch hitting for David as well. We could not have done it without you today, so thank you. Yep, I see that. Thank you so much. All of you, again, Paula is new to our team and we're so excited to have her. She did put her information in the chat. So if you have any needs regarding business engagement, how to liaise with the county, how to get involved with BizLaunch, with SBA, please tap Paula or Nikki or Marty or anyone else who put their information in the chat. And thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. I will give everyone just another minute or two to go to the chat and copy emails and paste them into wherever you need to, because that's the thing I can't stand about these kind of things is that like you're trying to get the email or something out of the chat and they close it down. You're like, but I just had time to do that. So
You might already know this. I don't know, but the little ellipsis at where you enter your chat, the 3 dots, if you click on it, it says save chat and you can save everything in the chat.
Yeah, that's very helpful. It will be in your Finder if you have a Mac. I don't know.
It's so interesting. I do these through my phone because I find my phone is a better computer than my computer. So I don't always have all the options visible on my phone version.
I've experienced that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but thank you. That's a good thing to know. So everyone, I'm sure you can find Paula, Nikki, Cindy, and Marty's email in the chat if you need it. If for some reason you don't get it in time, I'm sure if you're on this chat, you have access to us. So just message us, whoever's contact you need. But thank you. It's been a really good discussion, and this has been recorded and will be shared on our socials. And thank you for bearing with us with technical difficulties. We really appreciate it. And have a great rest of your rainy Friday morning, but at least it's Friday. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.